Wi-Fi has the ability to optimize a business's money-making capacity. Michael Fletcher, who's Sales Director at Ruckus Wireless, Sub-Saharan Africa, joins us for more. Good morning to you, Michael. This is my theme, and I'm going to say it again. All the technology that's available, your cell phone can make you a cup of tea and take the dog for a walk. Your internet is supposed to give you access to everything, but they're so slow, firstly. And secondly, the cell phone can't keep a signal. And you have to move around your house in order to keep the signal, and then you lose it, and the quality is bad. Isn't it time that this was fixed?
Well, good question. Thank you for asking that. We're punting or pushing carrier-grade Wi-Fi. And I think in the past, Wi-Fi was sort of regarded as the device that you have at home. You connect it to your DSL modem, and it works. And if you go to the kitchen, it doesn't work.
And so Wi-Fi is defined as there's no cable plugged into the wall.
Exactly right. But the carriers have looked at Wi-Fi as, I guess, the wicked ugly stepchild. So although you are a wireless product, you're not in the same grade as what we are. And anyone that drives down the N1 and you're talking on your phone, you can pretty much say that carrier grade is not all it's cracked up to be, because it constantly drops. So we are looking at using Wi-Fi as a means of enhancing, or as a means of giving the carriers ability to offload data onto Wi-Fi.
And what are the potential upsides for mobile companies, especially in South Africa and also on the African continent?
Okay. Well, the most obvious one is cost reduction. You know, you can look at it however you want to, but it's definitely cheaper to do it with Wi-Fi. It's unlicensed. There's no requirement for spectrum. And we're just seeing, you know, consumers just want more and more and more data. I mean, we've got 2 Oscar events happening today, and people will be tweeting and people will be posting pictures. So you're just seeing that happening more and more. And you're finding that the networks just aren't able to keep up with it. So there's a few things that are quite interesting that are coming, the first one being location-based services. And what we see a lot of, you know, with loyalty companies, you go to a store, you swipe a card, and they can tell you what you have bought once you've bought it. And they can always tell you what has happened, but it doesn't really help in predicting anything into the future. So with location-based services, you can now track people's movements throughout a mall, but you get to identify who that person actually is, and you can then tie that back to a loyalty program. So you can say, oh, here comes this guy, he generally buys a lot of wine, and you can have something sort of in the wine section that can trigger, we've got a special on this particular wine this week. The signals that we get, to return to the quality of the signal and the speed of access and the quality of access, it reminds me of radio in the old days when you had medium wave and not FM, and shortwave, and you had to put your radio next to the window and move it in a particular angle in order to get the signal. When are we going to be, where you're walking through a shopping center or in a building like this, and wherever you are in the building, your signal has quality? Well, with Wi-Fi, that's happening already. There's quite a few deployments in South Africa and in other parts of Africa as well. So MWeb's done quite a few shopping centres. Internet Solutions has done one as well. And if you're inside one of those shopping centres, one of the key differentiators is you will get coverage wherever you are. In the more dense areas like the food courts, you will get even better coverage where they'll put down some more access points. But it's all looking at, you know, what the value adds are further down the line, like the, you know, as I mentioned, the location-based services, proximity marketing, where you can have targeted advertising to people in a specific location.
Well, let's look at the cost as well, because we know that a lot of the times in South Africa, these things, you know, they're blocked by the high costs. If you look at Asia, for example, people have free Wi-Fi everywhere. When is South Africa going to get that, and what is it that we need to get to that point?
Well, we've got a few free Wi-Fi deployments. City of Tshwane's got some. There's a couple in Stellenbosch. And then there's a lot of talk. I mean, we've seen, you know, I know it's election time and government is talking about it a lot, but we're starting to see a few more serious bids. And what I'm seeing happening a lot more in Africa is if you go to an airport, there's free Wi-Fi available in quite a lot of airports now, which was something that wasn't available before. But, you know, another thing, even from a carrier perspective, is the carriers own the relationship with the device. So, you know, my SIM card inside my phone is what the carriers talk to. But, you know, I'm a person. I have, you know, 3 devices. I have a family. You know, we're typically the 2.3 devices. If you're doing something with Wi-Fi, you get the opportunity to own the relationship with a customer. So you can say we can give you multiple logins, and if you have a particular data package, you can burn it however you want to, whether you do it on Wi-Fi, which we'd prefer, or you do it on 3G. But Wi-Fi is still very much doing all the heavy lifting as far as smartphones are concerned, because if you try and do an app update on your phone and you're on 3G, it flashes an air raid siren and says, are you crazy? Do you know what you're about to do? Turn it on to power and go to Wi-Fi. Oh, this is going to cost you a lot of money.
What about in the African continent outside South Africa? Now, it's happened in Kenya, for example, with cell phones. It's almost bypassed the previous technology. So there are areas, particularly rural areas, that don't have the old technology, like fixed line, and they're not ever going to, because the new technology is serving the function. Is this comparable? Is the growth potential for this?
Well, absolutely. What we're seeing in some of the less developed countries in Africa, and an example being DRC, Mali, Chad, they've leapfrogged 3G altogether. So they've gone from the old GPRS and they've gone straight to Wi-Fi. So they have all these Wi-Fi hotspots around. And they're even using them in clever ways. So I know one place in Kenya where they have a taxi rank where an awful lot of people gather and they want to move them somewhere else. They're putting Wi-Fi hotspots in the region where they want people to go. So instead of doing what typically happens where guys move in and force them away, they're going, look what we've got, so it's the carrot rather than the stick approach. So definitely, but also Wi-Fi, you can put up a single access point, you can see how it goes. And if you get the uptake that you want, you can put more. Whereas if you're doing it with the licensed stuff with the carriers, you need to get permission from the regulator. There's a whole lot that needs to be put into it. And if it doesn't work, you've spent a reasonably high amount of money.
Well, interesting discussion indeed, Michael. Thank you very much for joining us. That was Michael Fletcher, who's the sales director at Ruckus Wireless for Sub-Saharan Africa.